Hello, this is the video for Chapter 7, Lesson 4. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about monomials and polynomials. So we had in our first lesson talked about monomials, and today we're going to start talking about polynomials. So let's review. Degree of a monomial. So we're going to add on this layer of talking about degrees of a monomial. That's really the sum of the exponents of all the variables. So the sum of the exponents of all the variables. So an example would be like x, okay? X is to the power of 1. So the degree is 1, okay? X to the power of 2, there's 2 exponent of 2, so it's to the degree of 2. Let me specify this is the degree of 1, degree of 2. If I have something like 3x, y, z, let's think about this. I don't see any powers. However, each variable is to the power of 1. And so this would be to the third degree, a degree of 3. Okay? So let's put some examples on this line. The degree of x is 1, whereas negative 3xy would be a degree of 2, whereas maybe 4xy to the second power, z to the third power would be a degree, this would be a degree of 6. Because this x would have a 1. So 1 plus 2 plus 3. The degree of a non-zero constant is 0. 0 has no degree. So like a whole number by itself is just to the 0 degree. There's no constant. So let's count the degrees of these monomials. 8xy, there's 1 here, the degree is 2. Here, y to the fourth power, z to the first power, the degree is 5. This is a constant, so it's to the power of, or to 0 degrees. There's no degrees. Okay, what is a polynomial? The polynomial is a monomial or the sum or difference of monomials. So there's several terms basically being separated usually by an addition or subtraction sign. So an example would be like x plus 2. There's one monomial, two monomials, but together they're joined by an addition sign. So this is a polynomial. Okay, x to the second power minus 5. One term, two terms, two monomials, separated by the subtraction sign. This is a polynomial. Example, x to the fifth power times y plus 3x to the fourth power y, excuse me, plus 1. There are 3 groups of monomials here. This is still a polynomial. And a monomial itself can also be called a polynomial. So standard form of a polynomial. Really what this is saying is how do you write your polynomials in a uniformed way where everyone writes them the same way? If you've got a set of terms where they're all, there's a bunch of them. There's like 3 separate monomials that you're grouping together. Well, how would you write this out so it's uniform where everyone who's writing those specific terms will write them in the same format? It is written in order of decreasing exponents. And that is why we need to know the degrees of a monomial, because that's going to tell us what comes first. So if I have something like 5x to the third power minus or plus x plus 1 minus 2x to the second power, and these are my terms, so I'm going to highlight each term or each set of monomials, I guess. These are my 4 monomials. How am I going to write them in descending, decreasing order of my exponents? So whichever one has the greatest degree will go first. That would be 5x to the third power. And then it would be negative 2x to the second power. And when I read this as negative 2x to the second power, it's really minus 2x to the second power. That negative kind of becomes the operation as well. And then plus x plus 1. Because this would have a 1 degree and this would be a 0 degree. So the degree of a polynomial is the highest, let's see, is the highest degree of any one of its terms. So when we look at a polynomial and its degrees, we don't look at every single exponent and bring them all together. We really just look at the one largest exponent value for that monomial. And when we're looking at this, we're considering there's 4 terms, like, what we looked at, kind of like what we looked at up there. But we're only considering which monomial has the greatest degree. It's this one, and it is to a degree of 3. So that means that polynomial has a degree of 3. Okay, so really in this lesson, we're learning a lot of new math language, just kind of the rules of how we write out our polynomials, how do we consider the degrees, what do we do there? So let's practice a little bit. We've got a polynomial of just a constant. Remember, we talked about that. When there is just a constant, there is 0 degrees. So the name using this degree is what we call a constant. It's just called a constant. And there is 1 term. It's called a monomial. So this is a monomial. Okay, this here, there are 2 terms. So I'm going to actually come over here and fill this out too. There's 2 separate terms. They're separated by the subtraction sign. This is what we call a binomial because there's 2. So that word bi indicates that it has 2 terms. Okay, how about the next one? There are 3 terms, right, separated by your addition signs, and that would be a trinomial. Hopefully that's kind of making sense for you guys. Over here, it's just 1 term. There's no addition sign, no subtraction sign. So it's 1 term and it's a monomial. Here I've got 2 terms. It's a binomial. Okay, let's talk about degrees and name using the degree. So that might be a little newer information where we're like, okay, got to take that in a little bit. So this has a degree of 1. So I'm going to put that exponent place kind of where it should be, like that invisible 1 where it should be. This has a degree of 1. It's linear. When there's only 1 degree, it's called a linear degree. If there is a degree where, let's see, let's take a look at what the degree is for this polynomial. The largest degree that I'm seeing is 2 to the power of 2. And so this is what we call a quadratic. Quadratic. If it has a degree of 3, this would be a degree of 3, that would be called a cubic degree. And then if you have a degree of 4, so this term here is to the power of 4, we're only looking at the one term that has the largest degree, right? So this would be 4, and that's called a quartic, like a quart or a quarter. Quartic is 4. So classifying them using terms, how many terms there are, that's pretty straightforward, right? It's monomial, binomial, trinomial, right? Quadratic nomial. I don't know. We don't really see the ones with 4 that all that much this year. And then with the degrees, when it's only to 1, it's a linear type of polynomial, a quadratic, a cubic, a quartic, and that's really as far as we're going to really look at. So let's practice a little bit. Let's write 2x minus 3 plus 8 times x to the second power in standard form. So I'm going to put the one with the power, largest power, or the greatest degree first. And then I'm going to put my 2x next, and my constant's going to go third. Okay, so 8 times x to the second plus 2x minus 3. What is the name of the polynomial based on its degree? Well, looking at just the term with the largest degree, this would be called a quadratic, because there's 2. Then, based on terms, there's 1, 2, 3 terms, and so this is a trinomial. Okay, you'll get some more practice in your book and on some worksheets. So it just takes practice. Some of this vocabulary you just have to memorize and learn. And then it's just getting used to naming these things correctly. That's all I have for today.